Rome has seen many emperors, men and women who have taken the crown and shaped the empire, but none have taken the throne quite like the way of Emperor Elagabalus, the spoiled boy who at the age of just 14 became the emperor of Rome, thanks to his grandmother's political schemes. He took the title of Augustus in 218 CE, and from that day forward, he made sure every waking moment was filled with decadence, excess, and debauchery. Welcome to my channel, and today, let us find out about the bizarre life of Emperor Elagabalus and how he shocked Rome with his scandals. When Elagabalus ascended to the throne, the empire was in a state of disarray. But while good emperors of the past would have focused on stabilizing the borders or strengthening the economy, Elagabalus cared little for the plight of his people or the glory of Rome. You see, the boy emperor was fascinated by the mysteries of the East, and all he wanted to do was bring the splendor of the Orient to Rome. Whether that was genuine fascination or an attempt to distance himself from the culture of Rome, we may never know. But what followed was nothing short of cultural shock for the Romans. While most emperors paraded around in fine clothes on special occasions, Elagabalus decided to turn that on its head and wear silk robes as a part of his everyday attire. He hosted feasts, inviting 8 men of only one type: bald, short, or fat. Once he unleashed poisonous snakes into the audience at the gladiator games, and watched with glee as the crowds panicked and fell victim to poisonous bites. It was during these so-called spectacles that he also unleashed poisonous gas, probably sulfur dioxide, which killed hundreds of spectators. You see, for Elagabalus, being emperor was more about the trappings of power than the responsibilities that came with it. For the true power of being an emperor was that he could fill the Colosseum with poisonous snakes and watch as Romans fell victim to poisonous bites. But it was his obsession with the imperial crown that truly set him apart, and in the process earned him the moniker the Cursed Emperor. To understand why this crown was cursed, we must first take a look at the man who commissioned it. Julia Misa was the grandmother of Elagabalus, and the woman behind the throne. After her son and Elagabalus's father, the Emperor Caracalla, was assassinated, she wasted no time in pushing her young grandson to the throne. But while Misa was happy to rule in Elagabalus's name, the boy emperor had different plans. Once he grew old enough to take control of his own life, he showed his true colors. Not only did he treat the Senate with disdain, ignoring their advice and keeping them out of the decision-making process, he also launched a series of attacks against traditional Roman culture and religion. He built temples to the Syrian sun god. He openly declared the Roman gods inferior to the gods of the East, and even prostituted himself in taverns and brothels. But perhaps his most egregious sin in the eyes of the Romans was his treatment of the imperial crown. To them, the crown wasn't just a symbol of Rome's power. It was a physical manifestation of the city's identity. But Elagabalus saw it as nothing more than an object to be used for his own amusement. He chained it to chariots like a horse and whipped it as it pulled him along. He hosted strange ceremonies where he married the crown to idols, animals, and even celestial objects. At one point, he unleashed poisonous gas from the sewers beneath the city and claimed the noxious fumes were the breath of the deified Emperor Nero. He hosted feasts, inviting 8 men of only one type: bald, short, or fat. As if all of this was not bad enough, he openly discussed plans to marry a freed slave and several men at the same time, including a youth so effeminate he had to be carried around in a litter. To say that Rome was shocked would be a horrific understatement. They had seen emperors who had strayed from the path of virtue, but none who had mocked Rome as traditions and customs so openly and flaunted its identity in such a manner. For the Romans, Elagabalus was no better than a barbarian. They loathed him for turning the empire upside down and for treating Rome itself with such disdain. In their eyes, he wasn't just a failed emperor, he was a warning. The cursed crown he wore symbolized what happens when power is wielded not for empire, but for ego. And so in 222 CE, when Elagabalus was just 18 years old, the Senate and the Praetorian Guard had enough. They turned on the emperor, dragged him through the streets of Rome, and murdered him. His cursed crown passed on to his successor, but the stain of his reign lingered in Rome's memory as one of its darkest. So do you think Elagabalus got the treatment he deserved? Or was he just a victim of circumstance? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.